All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to a brand new Gamer Section Live where we interview some of the dope game developers on the planet. And today we got another game developer that's about to tell us his origin story, to just tell a story about where you come from with his gaming roots. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey KANO, I'm Taz Sebula, creating a game called Brides of Vampira. I started doing it roughly around about 2010. I started doing it, and I've been working on it ever since. So I kind of started off programming pretty early age. Like I started when I was about 11. And that was a very, very long time ago. I kind of started probably maybe 1984. And over the years, I've just been constantly like creating games, but never really released any. I've just worked on them. Worked on games. I've done a bit of work in the industry with games, and it wasn't until maybe around about 2010 I sort of started looking into doing my first PC game. And the actual journey from 2010, it wasn't completely it hasn't been solid game development on Brides of Empire since then. So what happened is in around 2010-ish, I ended up getting cancer. And
Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Nah, well, it's all good, man. I'm still here. So what happened is like so I had cancer, and I had tumors down my spine, and so it kind of rendered me. I wasn't able to walk for about a year.
Wow.
And while I was kind of recovering from that, I kind of started getting into I did a bit of 3D and stuff like that anyway, and I kind of did animation for work and stuff like that. And so I kind of started getting more into 3D. And at the time, I was doing a band in Australia called Creech. It's like a hard rock band. And at the time, I had this idea of having this website where you'd basically log onto this website and you'd become this character and you'd be fighting zombies and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And so I was kind of working on that. I was building this website, and that kind of evolved into the more I got into doing. And this was originally done in Flash, but it was all done in 3D kind of thing. And after about maybe 3 or 4 months of doing that, I kind of discovered Unity. And so I kind of started transferring that website over to Unity. And then it slowly started evolving more into a game. And the original game, I didn't really particularly have a plan or anything. I just had this, it's like a third-person game. But I was kind of still learning how, like I'd been developing games for maybe, at this point, maybe
over a decade.
Maybe 20 years, right? So
I already
knew how to do game development, but the games that I'd done were all 2D because when I started doing game development, there wasn't no such thing as 3D. It was like Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, Amstrad sort of days. And so I was kind of pretty good at doing 2D games. And I did those like for work and stuff commercially. Right. So this game was like my first foray into 3D gaming, really. And also, like, I've done a lot of 3D art, but I hadn't really done it with the intention of doing animated characters in a video game. It was more kind of, so we're talking, like I was just kind of still learning a lot of stuff. And so that kind of went on for quite some time, and by around about 2011, I started doing this game, and it was originally called like The Last Vampire, and that kind of went on for a couple of years, and eventually I kind of decided to change the name to Brides of Vampira because there's a fairly well-known franchise of books called The Last Vampire. So anyway, I changed the name, and at this time, I'd kind of changed the game to a overhead third person. No, sorry, it wasn't third person. It was an overhead, top-down dungeon crawler, right? And so I'd kind of started developing this dungeon crawler. Maybe, you know, I'd been developing it for maybe a year, and as I kind of developed this dungeon crawler, I found that you know, it kept it started off fairly overhead, almost isometric, but as I carried on going on, I kept tilting the camera down, and you know, I always had this problem in the back of my head. I was like, oh, what happens if you want to shoot a bow at the ceiling? You know, I didn't want to just have it so it was locked. And so I was like, oh, how can I make it so you can shoot the bow at the ceiling?
Yeah.
And so I kind of kept tilting the camera down, and then eventually I tilted it right down, and it ended up becoming like a third person game again. So I went full circle pretty much.
Okay.
And then so around about 2016, maybe 2017, I'd kind of learned most of the skills like that you need to do game development. So I had the audio down, I had the 3D artwork down, the animation, you know, you name it pretty much. And so I kind of 2017, I kind of really started actually, you know, working on Brides of Vampire properly, like a production. So it's probably been in production properly since 2017.
Right.
And at the same time, one of my friends, Rod Whitfield, who he used to be in a band with me, like used to be the drummer of the band that I was talking about earlier on, Creech. He after kind of finishing up in Creech, he had gone into he's a writer, and he writes interviews for music magazines, that kind of stuff. And he was getting into writing novels, and so I asked him if he'd write a novel for Brides of Vampire. So since around 2017, I've been developing the game, and he's been developing the novel, or we've co-developing the novel. I'm co-developing the novel with him, and so at this stage, you know, we have a 3-book novel, and we also have, well, I have this game. The game itself is kind of still I would consider it still in early production, probably. The majority of the mechanics are done, but there's a lot of content to do. I've nailed down all of the, you know, what you have to do in the game, the core mechanics and stuff like that. It's a lot of it's kind of content now. So that pretty much is up to the day.
Well, basically, you answered a lot of my questions that I had on here already. You answered a good bit of questions. So let me ask you this question: like before we really dive into the game, right?
Sure.
Like with your origin story, like what was the first game that you've actually played that made you fall in love with gaming?
There's so many.
Gotcha. I got you
And
going already.
the thing is, if I tell you what my first game that made me fall into love with games is, you probably never would have heard of it.
You never
um,
know. You never try me.
okay, so the first game that got me into games was probably, I would say, Attic Attack.
Attic Attack. Okay.
Attic Attack. It's like it's an old ZX Spectrum game,
Mm-hmm.
and you basically, it's a kind of top-down game, and it's just like you're running around. You're running around this kind of dungeon. It's really really simple graphics and stuff, but you run around this dungeon. Every time you go into a room, you get attacked by a load of enemies, and you shoot them with magic and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
you've just like basically got to, there's three parts of a key that are randomly scattered around this dungeon. You've got to find the keys and get out. And it's it's a fairly simple game. But that was the first commercial game that got me into gaming. But before that, I had a really unusual way of getting into gaming.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that started me programming and making games, and at the same time getting me into gaming, is when I was 11, my
Mm-hmm.
parents bought me a ZX Spectrum. They asked, like, I went around a friend's house, and my friend's dad had this ZX Spectrum. And it was the first computer that I'd ever seen that ran games and stuff, and it just blew me away. And so
Right. Right.
I sort of said to my parents, like, "Oh, can I have a computer for my
Mm-hmm.
birthday?" And they're like, they had no idea what I was talking about. And so anyway, they get me this ZX Spectrum, and my family, my mum and dad, like, they had 7 kids. So there's 7 of us, and they got me the Spectrum, but they had no concept of the idea that you'd have to buy games for it and stuff. And so I had this Spectrum with no games.
Mm-hmm.
And there used to be a monthly magazine come out called Sinclair Spectrum, something like that. And basically, you'd buy this magazine, and every month they would have a program listing. You type out the program, and you get a game. And so, for the price of, I think it was £1.50, you'd get this magazine, type out, and you get a game. And the game was always this. Was some guy worked for this magazine, and the game was always this character called Benny Bunny,
Mm-hmm.
and there'd be just various different games that were like Donkey Kong, stuff like that. And so you'd type out this listing, 1,000 lines of code or whatever. And so I used to sit there with my brother. One of us would read it. One of us would read it out, and usually I'd be typing it in. And so you type in this game, hit run, and you've got a game, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that got me into game program is when I was going through the listing, there was just numbers and whatever. And I remember this, there was this like diving game where a simple thing where you kind of had a boat, and there's a diver, and he jumps into the water, and it sounds great, but it's just like this crappy little blocky graphics, and it drops into the water, and you swim down, and there's these clams at the bottom opening and closing, and there's pearls, and you've got to get the pearl, take it back up to the boat.
Right.
And I would just change like one number from 5 to 20, and the character would just go flying off the screen. It would like dramatically alter the physics of this game. And that's what kind of got me started in gaming, because I was just surprised that you could change one number in this 1,000-line code of listing, and it would dramatically alter the game.
Most definitely. I definitely feel you on that. That is a major origin story, which you just told us to the people out there. And that's amazing, man. So let's dive right into the game.
Sure.
Rise of Vampira. Like, where does this actual game take place? Give us the setting.
Okay, so it takes place in an alternate universe, and it takes place initially on a moon called Mordain. It's orbiting a planet called Morgrim.
Right.
And Mordain, the moon, has basically fell into darkness and started kind of dying. And the reason is because basically this kind of evil dude, should we call him, called Vampira, has cast a spell that has put like Mordain into darkness, and nobody knows why. And there's 5 characters, there's 5 heroes, and they all receive they all have a dream where they're contacted by a mystical being called the Watcher, and the Watcher tells them that they all need to meet at Grimstead. And Grimstead's this kind of town in Mordain, and so they all go to Grimstead, and then they basically start on their adventure.
Okay. Dope. That sounds very intriguing. So, I did read up on this game. It has like VR. Is this more so a VR type of game, or is it more like you could play regularly? Like, what type of game is this?
So I was like, originally I started off. I was an early adopter of VR. So when VR headsets first came out, like DK1 and stuff like that, I was right on it. And so, Brides of Vampira, I made with the intention that you would be able to play it in VR. But it's not a VR game. It is a regular game, but you can play it in VR as well. And so the intention is for most people it's just going to be a regular game. But the intention is that when it does release, and probably, I'm intending to do a demo next year, and there'll be an option to switch it into VR mode. So it's not going to be a separate VR game. It's just going to be a game that you can turn VR on and play in VR if you want to.
Okay.
So you could potentially, once I get everything, once all the multiplayer is done and stuff, potentially you could be playing in VR and I could be playing in non-VR, and we'd still be able to play together. That's the intention.
Hey, that's different because like I haven't heard like other game developers do it in that style. So it's definitely different. It's very intriguing, might I add. So like let's talk gameplay. So like tell us about some of the like aspects of the gameplay, like what type of weapons are there in the game.
Okay, so you get to choose from 5 players basically. There's the key character of the story, should we call the hero of the story, is this woman called Leia Blackthorn.
Okay.
And so she's in the story itself, like in the novels, she's the main hero of the whole story. But she's also, when the Watcher asks her to go to Grimstead, she meets 4 other characters. There's Tigor Trail, who's like an Iceman. There's Hans Volter, who is a guy that can generate electricity from his body. There is a girl who was Leia's best friend when she was younger, called Vectra Ravenshield, and she can kind of summon spirits and stuff like that. And then there's a character called Westfield, and Westfield's kind of like got like a robotic suit. She can kind of like use sort of technology to kind of do stuff. So the combat is like the weaponry, and the combat is different depending on which character you choose.
Okay. Very interesting. So like Does the game go by chapters, or is it more of an open world game?
It's definitely not open world. It has an open world nature to it in the sense that it's it has a lot. That it's explorable. So it goes by chapters. But for instance, in the first chapter is basically Grimstead. You're at the town of Grimstead. But Grimstead, like that chapter, is around about 3 kilometers by 3 kilometers.
Right, right.
And so you can do whatever you want within Grimstead, and there's multiple avenues for you to explore, and you can go wherever you want, kind of thing. But ultimately, similar to, I suppose it's similar to. I suppose it's similar to a sort of Dark Souls game in that way. There's lots of different ways you can go, but ultimately, like you have to go to the ultimate end game is to get to the boss at the end of that chapter and kill it, which is pretty much.
Okay, so you basically saying that within this game it goes by chapters, is kind of linear, but also is unique in its own way of how you're going about doing it. That's interesting. Okay, I see where you're going with this. Definitely.
It's a little bit different. So where it's a little bit open worldy, it's open world in the sense it's not open world as in you can walk out of Grimstead and go to a different location. What you can do though, what there will be is you can go from chapter to chapter. And so every time you open a new chapter, it opens the chapter on the map. And then, so for instance, there is going to be mechanics where you might be on the third chapter and somebody might say something to you and you have to go back to the first chapter and unlock like a secret, some sort of secret thing that you couldn't unlock before.
Kind of like a collectible or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So it might be, for instance, like in chapter 3, somebody might give you something, and then you can go back to chapter 1, and it opens a magic seal on a door, and you can finally get through this door that you couldn't for the first, you couldn't get through originally.
Okay. Like how many chapters are actually in the game right now?
So at the minute, there's planned to be like 7. It's between 7 and 10. Like I haven't decided yet.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. So like, does it have like co-op multiplayer into it? Like what does it have?
Yeah.
Single player?
So the multiplayer isn't finished, but the intention is you'd be able to play it 5-player.
Okay. Okay, that's very, very dope. And then you said this game is made with what engine? Like the Unity engine?
Yeah, Unity, yeah.
Okay, so like what made you want to use the Unity engine over no, this is a question I really want to it's more of a controversial question that I'm about to ask you. So a lot of developers that I've interviewed said they're using the Unity engine, but there's other developers that's really not for using the Unity engine because of what's going on behind the tech aspect of it and them acquiring malware. Like, what made you in particular want to use the Unity engine for this actual project here?
I mean, to be honest, it's like a couple of reasons. Like the main reason is it's the first engine I picked up, pretty much. Like I had a choice between using Unreal or Unity, and when I looked at Unreal, like I found it really, really cumbersome, like really hard, like really, really overcomplicated, should we say? And with Unity, I just found it really clean and easy to use. And the other thing is as well is like I mean this is probably the biggest reason with Unreal. You use C++. With Unity, you use C#. And for me, like C#, I do C#. I've done C# a long time now, and I just find it. I mean, I'm coming from like the days where like my initial games were written in pure machine code, right? And so I'm used to that level of technicality, but I just find that with C#, it's a much more elegant language, and like you can what I can do in C# in a week, like utterly dwarfs what I could do in C++. Like, you
Okay.
know, like it's just like with C++, you just have to do a lot more. You have to do a lot more housekeeping, whereas C# takes care of a lot of the system memory management and stuff like that. And so that was probably one of the main reasons I kind of went with Unity. But to be honest, you know, a lot of people talk about which is better, Unity or Unreal, and the answer for me is like neither of them are better. It just it depends on what you're comfortable using, and your style of, you know, if you open up Unity and use it for a week and you hate it,
Right.
and you open up Unreal and use it for a week and you love it, then use Unreal, and vice versa, because it's kind of, it doesn't make any difference. Like if I'd have started making brides in Unreal, it would still look and be it'd be exactly the same game. I'd still be doing the same thing. It's just that the way I'd be doing it would be slightly different, you know.
Okay. Now, definitely feel what you're saying. I definitely feel what you're saying. That's why I'm gonna be honest with you, with the Unity Unreal Engine and the way that they're using it with the graphical infrastructure of these upcoming games. Those two are going to be around for the long haul.
Oh, for
So
sure, they're going to be around by the time we're gone. You know what I mean?
most definitely. So like the $1 billion question that I always ask a lot of game developers is like, why should we want to actually buy this game day one?
That's a good question. That's a good question, and I kind of, to be honest with you, I don't have an answer for you. Like, because to be honest with you, I mean, you know, although, you know, when you look at the Twitter page and stuff and posted posts, like obviously, like I've polished it right quite a lot, but there is still a long way to go. So, I mean, the only thing I can say is that, like, you know, this is my passion project, and I would imagine that I'll be doing Brides of Vampira related stuff for the rest of my life now. You know, it's not like this isn't going to be one game. This is going to be it's already a 3-part book. You know, and we've already got other plans to write other books. And so this game is actually based on the first book, and so, you know, there are other Brides of Vampira games already in the work, or well, not in the works, but already in the plans.
Right.
So, you know, I think it's going to come down to, why should people buy this game? You know, it's way too early for anybody to like make a decision as to whether they'd want to buy this game. But I'm going to keep working on it until it's magnificent. And, you know, hopefully, like, my idea of what is magnificent, people will look at and go, yeah, I want to play that and try it out.
Absolutely.
But you know, I mean, yeah, I don't think that's an answerable question. I think once people get their hands on the demo next year, like, they'll be able to kind of see for themselves, you know, what I've been doing for all this time. Yeah, and then like, you know, hopefully, well, not even hopefully, you know, it's kind of, for me, I'm just working on it. I just love working on it, and you know, if people get any kind of enjoyment out of it, then brilliant, you know.
I think people just need to see like a full-length trailer of the game down the road, and once they actually see it, they'll get an idea of what the game is about. From what I've seen on Twitter from your game, I am definitely excited and intrigued about this game because it has Dark Soul elements into the game, but it's you. It's like your bread and, well, it's your bread and butter, but it's like something that you're making. You know what I'm saying, from the ground up. So I definitely give credit where credit's due. I give you, like I said, I commend you for what you're doing with this actual game. But I forgot to ask this question though. like like the protagonist, like the cinematic aspects of it. So within the single player campaign, will they have more cinematic story, or is it just like straight dived into the gameplay first and foremost in the game?
So it so the gameplay loop is kind of it's not going to be. There's already I did make a definite decision to kind of go down the sort of Dark Souls way of telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't going to be any cinematics. The
Mm-hmm.
story is going to be told through just snippets of character interaction. So basically, like you'll get a gist of what's going on, but like
Mm-hmm.
if people want like more of the story,
Mm-hmm.
then that's when they go to the novel, because the novel basically will basically tells the whole story, and it's pretty detailed. So
Okay.
um, yeah, but the actual game itself is more of an action game. Like Elden Ring, it's more of an action game where it's basically exploring, and like there's a few, like it has elements that are kind of like a Dark Souls type game.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have like a stamina bar, and you do have magic and health, that kind of mechanics, and you do have a dodge, kind of like similar to those games, but the actual core mechanics are slightly different. Like it doesn't play like that kind of game. It has a familiarity, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, you do get so for instance you get attacked by hordes in this.
Mm-hmm.
So you can climb up, you can scale buildings, you can scale monsters, you can scale big monsters. So
Mm-hmm.
you can so in a lot of ways it definitely does have similarities to a Souls like game, in the sense that you have checkpoints, you do fight big bosses,
Mm-hmm.
there is a little bit of a timing thing going on, but there are differences, and like so currently there's animation cancelling, for
Right.
instance. Like, so unlike a Dark Souls game, if you attack, you can at any point get out of that attack, and
Mm-hmm.
so that radically alters how the gameplay is compared to a Souls like, a
Mm-hmm.
general Souls like, because most of them you're kind of stuck, you're committed into an animation kind of thing, and
Right.
so there's a whole bunch of different mechanics that kind of work around that. Um, and then there's a whole bunch of other surprise mechanics that kind of I probably won't talk about until I'm closer to having videos and stuff like that. I'm being very careful to
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
you don't want to give too much away. I understand that.
yeah. I mean, like I'm not going to release any like proper videos of it until I'm pretty happy that it's like banging. So
Okay, most definitely, most definitely. So, like, when will birds? I mean, I said birds. Brides, brides of vampires release, and what platforms will it be on?
so as far as release date goes, I have no idea. Like so it will be released when it's magnificent, pretty much. Like I kind of no idea when it's going to be released at all. Um,
Mm,
the platforms, like it'll count on Steam. Like Steam is my main platform that I'm going to release it on,
mm,
and it'll initially be a PC game. And down the track, I'd like to do PlayStation, and I'd like to do Xbox, pretty
mm,
much. Any kind of platform that kind of fits in with a PC game, really, because it is going to be kind of a fairly high fidelity game, so it is going to need like either a console or a PC
mhm.
to play it.
Most definitely, most definitely. I see, like the whole genre of this game going to go many places besides the books. The games might be adapted into TV series and film. You never know.
Yeah, I mean that's our plan. That's me and Rod's plan. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see comic books. I'd like to see TV, film. All sorts. Like I said, like when I said before, like this is now my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
What I meant is like you know like, because I do short films, like I've done, short films and stuff, like a bit of directing and stuff, and so I don't think I'll ever be directing a film of it, but
Definitely.
I've got like there's one of my friends is he's a film director, and he's been writing a TV screenplay for it and stuff. So who knows, right? Like, by the time this game's released, it could be a game, it could be a TV show, it could be, well, it will be a book anyway. But who knows? The idea is to kind of, just basically just keep doing it in different things, in different formats.
Okay, for sure, for sure. So, like, where can they find you at? And this is the last question. Where can they find you at on social media? Like, where can they harass you and ask when the game is going to be released out there on social media?
So the main place to find me, I do have a YouTube channel, which is at Brides of Vampira, YouTube at Brides of Vampira. The main place to find me is Twitter at the minute, just Twitter at Brides of Vampira. Soon, probably like, sometime early next year, I'll probably end up opening like a lot of people have been hassling me to like do a Discord, and I will eventually, like, but at the minute I'm just too busy to do a Discord, to be honest. It's like, but like next year, like, so my plan is next year is to have this demo that I'm going to take around to PAX and stuff like that. So once I sort of start getting on that kind of train, I'll probably pop up a Discord on the Twitter and start interacting with people a bit more, getting people's feedback, suggestions, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's the main place. Twitter's my main place to, like, for people to see what's going on. I usually update it at least once every couple of weeks.
Now, I feel you on that. So there y'all have it, you folks. This your boy KANO, the brutally honest gamer. This is Taz. He's got his game Brides of Vampira that's coming down the road. Still in kind of like pre-production stages. So yeah, definitely go ahead and subscribe to his channel. Follow him on the social medias, and like I said, support the movement. And follow the gamer section on all social medias, and follow our new Twitter at the gamer section, because our other one was hacked and suspended wrongfully. But that's neither here nor there. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the post notification button for when we drop new content, new videos. And yeah, we're out. Peace.
See you later,